Hey everyone, I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about the past weekend at the worldwide box office. But I want to go over two things before I cover any of the narratives from this past weekend at the worldwide box office. The first thing I want to cover is saying to you guys that I'm sorry for not having a video come out about last weekend's numbers for the worldwide box office total numbers is because I've just been really busy with the Iron Man podcast and my gaming streams on my Rumble and Twitch channels, which are linked in the description box below. And the second thing is in doing all of, these podcast episodes and my gaming streams, I realistically just didn't have enough time to just get a video like this done. But I do want to tell you guys that starting this week, the pre-recorded content is going to start consistently coming out. I have plenty of videos that I've already worked on, and I can't wait for you guys to see them. And in midst of, releasing all this content to you guys, I will be actually working on more content in that meantime. So you have content coming out, you have content getting worked on, and then if you follow me on Twitch and Rumble, you will see me go live pretty much every single day. And I do want to make sure I put this out there because I put this out there on my Twitter page, is that if you are like an upcoming, writer, author, comic book creator, or anything involving like the indie scene, which is, part of all that building up right now, as people call it, the Iron Age, or you're just a fan of entertainment in general, just DM me on Twitter and you could be on an episode of the Iron Man podcast. All I ask for is, just have a good mic. Actually, you don't have to have a webcam or anything. Just have a good mic. And yeah, we just start talking and just, let's start, building up the podcast actually. Now, obviously, even if I don't have, like solo one-on-one guests, some weeks, I'm going to end up having like the Iron Man podcast, every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Friday and Saturday, because, like I mentioned before on the Iron Man podcast and my gaming streams, is I really do feel like I should have a podcast that is past 530 episodes, so the Iron Man podcast, there's two goals. The first initial goal is 300 episodes. And then after that, the ultimate goal of the show is to get it past 530 episodes. And that for me would feel pretty satisfying, because at that point it would be like, okay, ever since COVID, I've tried to get a podcast going, and at this point, this would be where I feel like I should be at, for having a podcast all this many times, right? I've tried to basically, reboot it and get it right. This would be like a good number. I feel like it would be a podcast that basically encapsulates, everything that I'm a fan of, more or less so, right? So outside of all that, let's talk about the box office. So there's been several things that have happened. So you have Warner Brothers and Sony feuding over who won last weekend. And it's crazy because the media is also trying to make out that these like big blockbuster tentpole movies that have these really huge budgets and marketing costs associated with them are actually not doing as bad, which is clearly just gaslighting and clearly just not understanding basic movie math. And I know these, big Hollywood media outlets do. So when some of these guys are sitting here pointing out just all this bullshit, it's just like, come on, bro. That's just such a crock of garbage, and I don't understand why they're doing it, like just take last week, for example, when I did that last video talking about the worldwide box office, which is Fast X came out. And that movie made $704 something million, because the last Fast and Furious movies have made around like $700-ish million from, Fast X, Fast 9, and Hobbs and Shaw, right? Which is good. I'm just saying right now, making $700 million is good, okay? But if you look at the context surrounding those movies, given their budgets and their marketing costs, that's not really that impressive, And looking at Fast 9 and Fast X in particular, because their budgets are around $300 million, not including marketing, when you're taking in $700 million, that's not good enough. And we know movies around that kind of budget range need to be pushing about $900 million minimum just to be turning a profit. And I don't think these movie studios turn a profit with some of these movies, but they use lingo, and which is, it's not like a lie. It's more as if oh, we'll just make money on these other, sources of, income, which is not something you can't do. It's just like you didn't make money at the box office, which is what people's main argument is. If you don't make money at the box office, that's one thing. But if you make money with like certain TV deals or streaming deals, that is something entirely different in general. People love to conflate like two things together as if like they're one when they're not. It's an isolated, circumstance, and you must treat it as so. So Sony had, Gran Turismo come out last week, and they were feuding over like numbers with Warner Brothers about beating Barbie. Barbie's in its 5th weekend. Barbie and the Super Mario Brothers movie are already like the highest grossing movies of the year. So I don't know why Sony thinks it's some sort of like big deal to be beating a movie within its 5th week, actually. Like Barbie, you should be beating Barbie in its 5th week if you're the newest blockbuster tentpole movie out there. And like I've mentioned before, when it comes to blockbuster tentpoles, average people will just simply see the newest movie and go, I want to see the newest movie that's out right now. That's just how that works, actually, So we have to kind of factor in how people are going to navigate when it comes to basically seeing the newest films. So that's kind of why Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 ended up getting screwed, is because it came out right before 2 other big blockbuster tentpole movies as well. And I've mentioned this, obviously in other videos too. When you have too many of these big blockbuster tentpoles coming out together, they do tend to like basically cannibalize each other to a certain extent. People will just end up picking the one that obviously, goes with what their interest is in, right? So this was from last week. These first 2 variety articles, and then these latter 2 will cover the numbers, somewhat covering the narratives going into this week, actually, right? So outside of Gran Turismo, I'm pretty sure the Equalizer franchise is done by Sony, which is Denzel Washington's franchise, which is now having its 3rd movie come out. And when was the last Equalizer movie? Like I mentioned before, I've never watched one Equalizer movie, actually. Maybe we'll do a movie watch party. So 2014 was the first one. So about, a 4 or 5 year gap between them? That's not bad overall. Damn, it's actually, they're on their 3rd movie now, which, hopefully we had a pretty good trilogy. Hopefully it ended off that movie trilogy on a high note. And obviously, if the money is there, we know Sony's going to do another one. It's just how they function. Another thing that I want to mention before I cover what I'm going to cover in this video is people need to understand there's not newer movies getting filmed right now. So when it comes to December, when that month ends, when we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, I have no clue what we are going to be talking about in these videos. Now, in the meantime, I would just simply do other videos for you guys. But this is just basically a pre-warning. I'm just saying to you guys, hey, no new movies right now are currently getting filmed because of the current writer's strike, okay? And since no new movies are getting filmed, there's no way they can meet their 2024 release dates. Most films are going to end up getting pushed to not only the end of next year, but to the, earliest part of 2025. So 2024 is going to be I would say a great year if you are a independent content creator working on these like small indie-ish films, or maybe streaming movies might just end up coming out in movie theaters and then going to streaming services based off whichever company owns them. You might see like streaming only releases get movie releases, actually. It's just how that's going to work. There's no new movies getting worked on, so after December, I don't know what people are really going to expect to see at the theaters that's new, because if there's no new movies coming out, theaters are definitely going to end up suffering for the most part. But you mostly have to just deal with like re-releases, and that's kind of just what the industry is going to have to survive on for a bit. I like how no one's been mentioning that, even though that's clearly a big just elephant in the room. It's like, hey, what are we going to do as an industry when there's no new movies getting filmed and there's no new movies coming out, actually? Now, it also depends on how far deep those movies were already getting worked on before the strike ended up happening, right? Box office. Gran Turismo narrowly outraces Barbie with milding $17.3 million. It's a nail-biter at the box office. Sony's Gran Turismo is projected to narrowly outrace the competition with 17.3 million at the box office, but Barbie is close behind with 17.1 million. So it's possible that when the final tally is revealed, the summer blockbuster will have reclaimed its crown, and Gran Turismo will have to settle for second place. So, only $200,000 separates these two movies, so we'll have to see how things shake out on Monday. As for Gran Turismo, its opening figure includes a sizable 5.3 million from preview screenings and fan events that the studio hosted over recent weeks. That's an unusual bit of accounting, one that came about because Sony, which originally planned to open the film on August 11th, instead pushed back its debut by 2 weeks. At the time, it orchestrated several days of special screenings for the film to generate excitement and raise its profile. So while most studios include Thursday preview grosses in their opening numbers, folding in several weeks of grosses is taking the definition of weekend in creative directions. I wouldn't say so. I think that's just Sony trying to basically gas up their numbers a lot more. Most people would include Thursday as an opening weekend for new blockbuster tentpoles. That's been a thing for a very long time, you know? And I've always told you this. If you don't know this, you can see new movies on Thursday. Just check your listings at your movie theaters if you go. To be clear, Gran Turismo has company in its capacious approach to assessing a debut. Paramount's Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves did the same thing, including results from multiple preview screenings into its inaugural weekend. Needless to say, Warner Brothers, which backed Barbie, isn't a fan of this practice since it could deny them a victory. But Warner Brothers doesn't have to really worry about that. That's the thing. They've already won the box office, along with, Illumination and Nintendo this year. So claiming some random victory in week 5 doesn't really mean anything. I understand why Warner Brothers would be upset, says Jeff Box. But this game has been going on for some time. They've all been extending the idea of an opening for a long time to include more previews and sneak screenings. But this is more egregious than what other studios have done in the past. They just want a headline saying they're number one. Yeah, that's kind of what I assumed it was, honestly. It's just Sony just acting as if like this extra part that nobody knew about matters to this. It's like, no, like the numbers that matter are the ones right here, actually, that total into your Thursday, preview screenings. Beyond photo finishes, there's another reason that this random weekend in the dog days of summer is being closely scrutinized. You see, Sunday is the second National Cinema Day, during which more than 3,000 theaters across North America will slash ticket prices to a mere $4. Exhibitors are hoping to get bargain hunters to turn out, boosting audience attendance and giving them a chance to sell more overpriced popcorn and Coke. Privately, studios don't share their enthusiasm because of the whole making tickets cheaper thing. It's unclear how that will impact grosses. It's not much of a win for Gran Turismo. The film has a $60 million production budget, so it will need to generate some great word of mouth if it wants to make a profit. Directed by Neil Blomkamp of District 9 fame, the film centers around... Oh, God. You guys know. I always get fucking just pulled into just talking about the whole movie, essentially. Not just kidding with you guys. Good lord. Though, what the heck? These ads. Like, what's going on here? As for Barbie, the box office phenomenon is barreling towards a stateside gross of $600 million, having earned $594.8 million through the weekend. The film has already surpassed the Super Mario Bros. Movie to become the highest grossing domestic release of 2023. Yes, so we'll go over that as well. So people have been going back and forth on, like, what is gross more money? Barbie or the Super Mario Bros. Movie? I'm pretty sure Barbie's outgrossed the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I'm pretty sure it has. But this is for domestic, and if you're talking about worldwide. Now, worldwide, I'd have to check that number, actually. Unless they've updated that this week, actually. In its second weekend, Blue Beetle earned $12.8 million. The Warner Brothers and DC films released has grossed $46.3 million domestically, a disappointing result for a movie that cost more than $100 million to produce, plus millions more in marketing. Yeah, Blue Beetle, I doubt it's changed going into this new week right now. Blue Beetle's just not been performing that well, which is super sad for DC in general. Universal's Oppenheimer nabbed 4th place with 9 million. The look at the life of physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer has earned an extraordinary 300.1 million in North America, making it Christopher Nolan's 3rd highest grossing domestic release. Only The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises have done better. It is also the 5th highest grossing stateside film of 2023, bypassing Little Mermaid. Paramount's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles rounded out the top 5 with 6.1 million, pushing the animated adventure's domestic gross to 98.1 million. Among other new releases, Lionsgate and Roadside Attractions Retribution, the latest chapter in Liam Neeson's aging action hero era, earned a puny 3.3 million from 1,750 theaters. It's the kind of film that usually does better on demand. Then there's Bleecker Street's Golda, a biopic about former Prime Minister of Israel, Golda Meir, which opened to 1.7 million from a little over 800 screens. Finally, Briarcliff Entertainment's The Hill, a faith-based story about a baseball player who overcomes a physical disability, earned 2.5 million from 1,570 locations. And then we also have going into this weekend to set it up. Next weekend, we'll receive the return of Denzel Washington in Equalizer 3, who was back in ass-kicking style to close out the summer of 2023. As things stand, the business has earned roughly 3 billion. Oh shit, my brain is fried. 3 billion. 3.9 billion in ticket sales and should cross 4 billion mark for the first time since the pandemic. So yeah, this is the first time since the pandemic the box office has taken in 4 billion worldwide, which is good. That's the sign of a healthy box office, right? Is now you having a number to show that we've been having some good success stories here in 2023. But amidst all these success stories, there's a good amount of flops there, actually, like Little Mermaid, The Flash, movies like that, obviously. So then let's go into this week, actually. So we caught up on last week. Let's fully just go into this week. Barbie is officially the highest grossing release of the year with $1.36 billion globally. Barbie has conquered North America and now the world. Greta Gerwig's fantasy comedy has generated $1.36 billion at the global box office, overtaking Universal and Illumination's animated adventure, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which had $1.35 billion globally, as the highest grossing worldwide movie of the year. Barbie has accumulated $600 million in North America, and earlier in August, passed Mario, $574 million, to become the biggest release of 2023 at the domestic box office as well. At the international box office, the film has grossed a staggering $760 million to date. That's absolutely crazy. The very pink blockbuster has been casually crushing expectations since opening in theaters in July with 162 million. The best debut of the year, Barbie remained the #1 movie for 4 consecutive weekends and eventually became the highest grossing movie directed solely by a woman. And that's not like, oh, a woman directed, no, like that is true. Like Barbie is the highest grossing movie directed by a woman. But then again, Barbie was going to sell no matter what. I don't get why people just didn't understand that going in. Barbie is an incredibly big brand name in general, like Mario and Sonic. So when you hear certain like properties getting like a live action movie, gotta understand, certain properties like Barbie are just guaranteed to sell no matter what, because it's basically kind of like curiosity of like, how are they going to do a live action Barbie movie? You know, just even that in general. But, you know, when you have such a big name recognition attached to your brand, it's going to end up selling. It's currently the 14th biggest domestic release and the 15th biggest global release in history. With its latest milestone, Barbie has become Warner Brothers' highest grossing worldwide release of all time, eclipsing 2011's Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, $1.34 billion, not adjusted for inflation. It already surpassed Christopher Nolan's superhero epic, The Dark Knight, $536 million, as the studio's biggest domestic title in 100 years. That is absolutely amazing. And yeah, congratulations to Greta Gerwig and Barbie and Margot Robbie as well. And Ryan Gosling? No, it's not Ryan Gosling. Who the fuck was the Ken? Good lord. Barbie. I'm pretty sure it was Ryan Gosling, unless my brain is fried. Okay, I knew that. My brain is fried. Alright, and let's go into, you have Equalizer 3 with Denzel Washington. Box office. Denzel Washington's Equalizer 3 opens to $34 million, aims for a strong $43 million through Labor Day. So yes, this was Labor Day weekend actually. So, your kids will probably be out of school. If you have a federal job, like a government job or anything of that nature, you're probably going to have the day off. So I hope you guys have a great, wonderful day, and make sure you guys go out and see some good movies at the cinema. Denzel Washington's bloody assassin thriller The Equalizer 3 debuted the top of box office charts with $34.5 million over the weekend and an estimated $41 million through Monday's Labor Day holiday. It's the second biggest Labor Day opening weekend in modern times, though the holiday isn't known for bringing people to the movies after the record holder Marvel's 2021 blockbuster Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings, $75 million for the 3 days, $94.6 million through Monday. The next highest grossing Labor Day debut is Rob Zombie's 2007 Halloween remake, $26 million for the 3 days, $30 million through Monday. That's crazy how it's Shang-Chi and Rob Zombie's Halloween are like your top Labor Day movies. So, the film added $26.1 million at the international box office for a global start of $60.6 million. The 3-day domestic figure is nearly the same as its predecessors. 2014's The Equalizer debuted to $34 million, and 2018's The Equalizer 2 debuted to $36 million. The first two films, also directed by Antoine Fuqua, managed to surpass $100 million at the domestic box office and nearly $200 million globally. Equalizer 3, which was co-financed by Sony, TSG, and Eagle Pictures, cost $70 million, and it's targeting a similar tally by the end of its run. So it's basically saying if it hits $200 million, then it's fine. As the summer winds to a close, box office revenues hit $4 billion for the first time in the pandemic era. The notable milestone was possible because of unexpectedly huge hits like Greta Gerwig's fantasy comedy Barbie, $611 million, Christopher Nolan's dark historical drama Oppenheimer, $304 million, and the Jim Caviezel action thriller Sound of Freedom, $181 million. Those blockbusters made up for disappointing, underperforming tentpoles like DC superhero adaptation The Flash and Disney's remake of Haunted Mansion. Yeah, what's crazy is the number looks great and it's impressive and that's good, but the amount of flops we've had this year from just all those other expected bigger titles just goes to show you a lot of things can be super front-loaded, while the back end of it looks also pretty bad. Also, this weekend, Barbie overtook Universal and Illumination's animated adventure, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, as the highest-grossing worldwide release of the year, with $1.38 billion at the domestic box office. Barbie remained in second place with $9.7 million over the weekend and an estimated $12.6 million through Monday. During its remarkable theatrical run, the Warner Brothers film has been in the top 2 on North American charts for 7 consecutive weeks. Blue Beetle took third place with $6.6 million over the weekend and an estimated $8.6 million through Monday. The comic book movie starring Xolo Maridueña as the alien symbiote has generated $57 million in North America and $101.9 million globally, a mediocre result given its $104 million production budget. Movie theaters get to keep about half of those ticket sales. So yeah, that is just a bad number. Blue Beetle, it massively underperformed. Let's just keep it 100 here. Gran Turismo, last weekend's champion, or runner-up depending on whom you ask, fell to 4th place with $6.5 million between Friday and Sunday, and an estimated $8.4 million through Monday. The $16 million budgeted racing drama directed by Neil Blomkamp has generated just $30.6 million to date. Oppenheimer rounded out the top 5 with $5.3 million in its 7th weekend of release, and an estimated $7 million through Monday, with $310 million at the domestic box office and $540 million internationally. Oppenheimer crossed $150 million mark worldwide to become the director's 3rd highest grossing film of all time, ahead of Inception, $837 million of Nolan's filmography. It's behind only The Dark Knight, $1 billion, and The Dark Knight Rises, $1.8 billion. So yeah, Nolan's other bigger hits are, Inception, obviously, which a lot of people herald as a really, really great movie. And I love The Dark Knight, truly one of the best superhero movies ever made. And The Dark Knight Rises, which is one of the movies of all time. That's what I'll say. A lot of people always ask me, do I hate The Dark Knight Rises? No, I don't hate The Dark Knight Rises, but I don't think it's that good either. I think it has the same type of syndrome and like a lot of the same threads that Spider-Man 3 ended up going through. That movie ended up just feeling kind of like all the other third movies in a trilogies for superheroes, like X-Men: The Last Stand. Disappointing. First 2 movies were actually pretty solid. Spider-Man 3, disappointing 3rd movie. First 2 were really good. Dark Knight, Batman Begins, first 2 really, really great movies, and then the 3rd one not being that good, obviously. But Oppenheimer and Barbie have really, really just destroyed all expectations, actually. Elsewhere, MGM's raunchy high school comedies Bottom added $3 million over an estimated $3.6 million through Monday, while expanding to 715 screens. The film, which reunites Shiva Baby filmmaker Emma Seligman and star Rachel Sennett, and adds the Bear breakout Ayo Edebiri to the mix, has generated $4.3 million after a week in limited release. So that's good. I mean, we'll have to see how the Equalizer 3 plays out, if it can actually, hopefully by the end of its, box office run, turn a profit. So they said the movie was made on, a $70 million budget. So let's see if that's actually true. Equalizer 3. Let's go down to the Equalizer 3's budget, which is currently at $70 million right here, and a box office total right here. So this movie is about to take in its entire budget within basically its opening weekend. So anything after that, you're just hoping this film can track to hit the $200 million mark like the other movies did. And who knows, maybe they might end up doing more of these. I've never watched a single one of these. Maybe I'll just end up doing a few watch parties for the first 2, reviewing them for you guys, and then hopefully, if there's time, I can end up going and seeing the 3rd movie. But, just wanted to make sure I got this video out to you guys. That way it's already done. I'll probably end up doing these kind of videos, earlier in the week, like on Sunday and Monday. That way they can already be ready for you guys. But remember, I want to make sure I say this. Consistent content is dropping regarding, and revolving around all of my, fandoms that I'm a part of, video games, movies, TV shows, anime, streaming, all that stuff, right? We'll end up having comic book reviews very, very soon. So there's going to be a lot of content coming on the channel. And if you want to make sure you're notified whenever these videos drop, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment down below. And I'm MSK, and this is Online Cinema Entertainment, your one place for online cinema. All right, see you guys later. Deuces. Peace.